You know that number that randomly shows up in your head at night? The one that makes you grab your phone, open your banking app, and instantly regret it? For a lot of people, it's $500,000. And yeah, it sounds impossible when your checking account is sitting at like 3,000, your student loans look like a mortgage, and every unexpected expense somehow finds you twice a month. Here's the punch most people don't expect. $500,000 is the most misunderstood number in personal finance because it's not rich, not in America, not with housing, healthcare, and inflation doing what they do. But you're also not broke anymore, and that middle zone is where the rules start changing. Here's the thing. Under $500,000, money feels like a constant problem you have to solve. You're always doing mental math. Can I afford this? What if I lose my job? What if the car dies? What if rent jumps again? It's not just numbers, it's background stress. But around $500,000, the math starts working for you instead of against you. Your money isn't just sitting there, it's compounding. It's building momentum while you're working, while you're asleep, while you're watching Netflix and pretending you're relaxing, but actually stress scrolling. And the real flex of $500,000 isn't yachts, it's breathing room. Options, the ability to say no without your heart racing, the ability to make decisions without financial panic sitting in the passenger seat. If you're thinking, cool, must be nice, I'm never getting there, don't click away. I'm going to show you what changes as you approach $500,000, why people mess it up right before they hit it, and why the jump from $500,000 to $1 million is way faster than anyone expects.
The first thing that changes on the road to $500,000 isn't your spreadsheet. It's your identity as an investor. Right now, if you're like most people, you're in accumulation mode. Every dollar matters because you're building from basically nothing. You check your retirement account on your lunch break, you feel like a genius when it's up $200. And when the market drops 3% in a day, it feels personal, like you got jumped in an alley by the S&P 500. But something weird happens as you get closer to $500,000. Your brain has to switch from collector to operator. Let me explain. When you have $10,000 invested, a 10% drop is $1,000. That stings, sure, but you can emotionally recover. You tell yourself it's long-term. You skip takeout for a week. You move on. When you're sitting near $500,000 and the market drops 10%, you just watch $50,000 disappear on paper. That's a down payment. That's a year of income for a lot of people. And this is where people completely lose their minds. This is where people panic sell. This is where they dump everything into cash. This is where they swear they'll buy back in later, then miss the rebound, then buy back higher, then repeat the cycle. So the skill you need at this level isn't picking the perfect stock. It's emotional control. You have to train yourself to think in percentages instead of absolute dollars. You have to expect your account to swing by amounts that used to represent your entire net worth. And you need rules before the panic hits. Automatic contributions, a diversified portfolio you actually understand, rebalancing on a schedule, and a real emergency fund so you're not forced to sell the moment life throws a punch. Because at $500,000, volatility isn't a crisis. It's noise, unless you turn it into a crisis.
Here's the paradox of $500,000. You have to be more conservative and more aggressive at the same time. More conservative because you finally have something real to lose. When you had $5,000 invested, you could throw it into some random next Tesla stock your coworker won't shut up about, and worst case, you restart. At $500,000, a reckless move doesn't just hurt your feelings, it can steal years. And this is where people mess up, because they start feeling invincible. They see a few good years, they feel smart, and suddenly they're trading options like it's a video game, loading up on a single stock, or dropping $100,000 into a can't-miss crypto project that absolutely can miss. But you also have to be more aggressive in one specific way. You have to stay invested. Most people don't lose money because the market crashes. They lose it because they panic at the wrong time. Think about it. The market drops, your group chat turns into a funeral, headlines scream worst week since, and your brain starts negotiating, I'll sell now and buy back when it feels safer. That's the trap. because safe usually shows up after prices already recovered. So yes, avoid dumb risks, but don't run from normal market risk. If you've built a plan around long-term growth, you need to let the plan work. That means boring index funds, broad diversification, and staying consistent even when your account balance looks ugly. At $500,000, your advantage isn't being clever. Your advantage is being stable. You're not trying to hit a home run anymore. You're trying to avoid striking out when you're already winning. Now let's talk about the part that feels like a cheat code: compounding at scale. At $500,000, your portfolio can start growing faster than your effort, and that's the moment the game changes. Say your investments average 8% a year over the long term. Not every year, not guaranteed. Some years are brutal. But over decades, it's a common planning assumption for a diversified, stock-heavy portfolio. On $500,000, that's about $40,000 in growth in a typical year. Now add real life. You're still working, so you're still contributing. Maybe you're maxing your 401k, getting a match, and funding an IRA. Let's say you're putting in around $30,000 a year total. That means you could see something like $70,000 added in a year between contributions and market growth. And then the compounding starts stacking. Next year, you're not starting at $500,000 anymore. You're starting closer to $570,000. So 8% isn't $40,000, it's about $45,600. Then it's more. At some point, your returns start competing with what you make from work, and that's when it starts to feel unfair. This is the inflection point people don't understand when they're starting out. Early investing feels slow because it is slow. Your first $100,000 can take forever, but once the snowball gets big, gravity takes over. And here's where people accidentally sabotage it: high fees, constant tinkering, chasing hot plays, or bailing to cash after a scary year. At $500,000, small mistakes aren't small anymore. Protect the momentum. That's the whole point of this stage. The real luxury of $500,000 in retirement savings isn't what you can buy. It's what you can refuse. Think about your job. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's toxic. Maybe it's the kind of place where urgent just means poor planning. But you show up because you need the paycheck. That's most people's reality. Now here's the thing. $500,000 doesn't mean you can retire tomorrow, especially if most of it is inside retirement accounts with rules around withdrawals. This isn't cash under the mattress, but it still changes your life because it changes your leverage. Your boss asks you to work the weekend again. Before, you say yes because you're worried about optics, layoffs, or being labeled not a team player. With real savings and investments, you can push back. You can negotiate like someone who isn't trapped. Or maybe you want to switch careers. Maybe you want to take a pay cut to do something that doesn't drain your soul. That's terrifying when you're living paycheck to paycheck. But when you've built real financial momentum, the risk becomes survivable. This is walk-away power. Not walk away forever. Walk away from bad deals, toxic workplaces, underpaid roles, situations where they're squeezing you because they can tell you have no options. But let's be real. You still need liquidity, an emergency fund, a plan for insurance, a plan for the gap between I want to leave and I found the next thing. The portfolio gives you confidence, but the cash buffer gives you flexibility. And this is where lifestyle inflation tries to sabotage you. People finally hit $500,000 and suddenly it's luxury car leases, bigger houses, we deserve it spending. Maybe you do, but every dollar you pull forward is a dollar that stops compounding. Breathing room is priceless. Don't trade it for a payment.
Now we have to talk about the boring thing that can save you a ridiculous amount of money: taxes. I know, but this is where adults separate I invest from I build wealth. Because getting to $500,000 isn't only about earning and saving, it's about keeping. Every dollar you don't hand away is a dollar that can compound for decades.
Traditional 401k contributions reduce your taxable income today. Roth accounts cost you taxes now, but qualified withdrawals later can be tax-free. Early in your career, traditional often makes a lot of sense, but as your balances grow, the idea that you'll automatically be in a lower bracket later isn't guaranteed, especially with required minimum distributions starting at age 73, forcing taxable withdrawals whether you want them or not. This is where Roth conversions come in. Let me explain with clean math. Convert $50,000 from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA in a year when you're in the 22% bracket. You pay about $11,000 in tax now. If that $50,000 grows at 8% for 30 years, it becomes roughly $503,000. In a Roth, that growth can potentially be tax-free. In a traditional account, withdrawals would be taxed, and a 24% bracket would mean about $120,720 in taxes on that $503,000. Same money, different timing, massive difference. You don't do this randomly. You do it strategically, usually in lower income years, and you watch your brackets. And if you have a taxable brokerage account, tax loss harvesting can offset gains, but you have to respect the wash sale rule. Also, don't sleep on the basics, getting the full 401k match, using an HSA if eligible, and keeping fees low. Taxes aren't exciting, but neither is working 5 extra years because you didn't plan. Here's the part that makes people impatient. Once you hit $500,000, the trip to $1 million is usually way shorter than the trip from 0 to $500,000. Not because you suddenly became Warren Buffett, because the engine is finally big enough to matter. Run a realistic scenario. You have $500,000 invested. You keep contributing around $30,000 a year across retirement accounts. And over the long term, markets average around 8%. At that pace, you're looking at roughly 9 years to reach $1 million. And the weird part is what happens psychologically along the way. You're going to watch your portfolio move by amounts that used to represent your entire net worth. Returns might be $40,000 in a decent year, then maybe $55,000, then $70,000. Not every year, but the trend is unmistakable. This is exactly where people try to speed it up and accidentally ruin it. They start chasing 20% promises. They concentrate into one stock. They gamble with options. They treat boring index funds like they're too slow, even though boring is the entire reason they made it this far. This stretch, $500,000 to $1 million, isn't the finish line. It's the end of the tutorial level. You finally understand the game, and now the game starts paying you back. So the move is discipline. Keep investing, keep your allocation, keep your emergency fund, keep rebalancing, and don't confuse a market dip with a reason to abandon the plan. Protect the momentum, because once you hit $1 million, an 8% year is roughly $80,000 of growth, and that's when money starts feeling unreal. If you're anywhere near this stage or trying to get there, this next part matters more than you think.